Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Coliving Innovators podcast. Today we have Mayur with us from NomadGao, all the way from India. He has an interesting journey, right from financial analyst turned digital nomad, then to starting NomadGao and taking it through different phases. So now, today, we will learn a little bit more about how NomadGao came into being, what was the intention of Mayur while he was starting NomadGao, how did he scale NomadGao, and what steps did he take, and what can we learn from his journey in starting digital nomad co-living spaces. So welcome, Mayur.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here on this podcast, especially connecting with you, talking about my journey, about building in India, building co-living for digital nomads in India, and I hope a lot of people who hear this podcast will find it useful. It's been a decade-long journey that I'm going to share over the course of this podcast. So, yeah, looking forward to.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Mayur, for taking out time. So cool. It'll be very interesting to know, Mayur, what was the genesis of NomadGao? If you can tell us a little bit about your journey, how you came to a decision of starting NomadGao. What went into your mind, that why did you decide to start a digital nomad co-living space and build it?
Yeah. So Mayank, I started working remotely in 2014. It's been a decade now. Same year, I became a digital nomad because I had the flexibility to sort of work from anywhere. I did not know the term digital nomad back then. I just thought, okay, I have time to go see my friends who were in different parts of India, while making sure I pay my bills and earn enough money to travel. That was the genesis of my digital nomad journey. Between 2014 and 2017-18, I traveled around India and Southeast Asia. While on that journey, Mayank, I realized that it was a natural calling for me to get people together, to build communities, to run events, activities, and stuff. And so, while in Southeast Asia, I sort of did the job of getting people together. I did a few chai party. Chai is the milk tea in India. So I used to, host chai parties at other friends' houses and stuff. Until then, I considered myself more like an introvert. But this digital nomad journey turned me into an ambivert. I felt like I could connect with people, which was not possible for me for the first 30 years of my life, very easily, right? So I sort of met my tribe along the journey, and I felt deeply connected with the digital nomad lifestyle, not just as a means to travel, but to transform as an individual. And while doing that, a lot of people that I met along the way were curious about India. India as a destination for digital nomads, but were not sure about safety, internet, culture shock, community, all these aspects, right? And the second part of that was, a lot of people said I was the first Indian digital nomad that they met, and I was like, we are a country of 1.4 billion people. How is that possible that I am the only one out there? While digging deep, I realized that, okay, there are few digital nomads, but the lifestyle is generally not popular in India because of the work culture, and because micromanagement largely that happens in Indian companies and under Indian managers. So I decided to make India a digital nomad destination and to promote this beautiful digital nomad lifestyle among Indians. I did not know how to do that. I thought, okay, I'll start a blog, I will do something else, this and that. But while thinking through a bunch of options of how to make it possible, I realized that easiest way was to start running retreats to get digital nomads to India, help them explore in a safe environment with a community of like-minded people. And 2000, yeah.
So can we I'm so sorry for cutting you there, but can we say that the genesis of NomadGao was in that retreats when you started hosting those retreats? So if you can dive a little bit deeper into how did you host the first retreat? How were you able to gather the first set of people for your retreat? Like, what did you tell to convince them? Where did you market the retreat? How did you find them? Because these are some of the questions our listeners always have, that even if they want to start a space, they want to start testing out, learn how to do co-living and community building through retreats, and then take a more concrete step of starting a co-living space, right? So
Right.
if you can dive in a little bit deeper into the specifics of how were you able to launch the first space, how did you find people, that'll be a great thing to kind of dive into.
Yeah. So I started running retreats in 2017. I had a remote job with me back then. So that meant I was running retreats along with my job. We kept it very organic, very hacky. We used Facebook groups to reach out to people, largely Facebook groups and the communities, because back in 2017, digital nomad communities were very few, right? So actually the job was easier because you knew which groups to target to, which communities to target to. And I think, around the world there is this interest about India, right? Because you can't ignore India. There is this interest, but a lot of people are apprehensive rather about the things that I mentioned before: safety, internet, community. So we did a lot of content around these topics that that sort of make people jittery about coming to India, and we gave them the confidence that look, we are here to help you. We have done this. We know digital nomads. We have been digital nomads. I'm a digital nomad myself, and I know your problems. So just come, and I'll take care of everything else. So that was a simple pitch on a personal level. I think when you start pitching retreats, building that trust is very important, right? Because right now there is so much information out there on the internet. There are so many people trying to do retreats or trying to build in this area, but unless you sort of put your face out there, give people the confidence that they'll have a great experience with you compared to someone else, I think it's very hard to market retreats. So we did that. We spent quite a bit of time every day showing up, spending an hour or two on Facebook groups, Facebook communities, talking to people over the phone, over WhatsApp, helping them, answer their questions. And we got 12 people from 6 different countries, 5 different continents at the end without spending a dime on marketing. And the first retreat was a huge success. People loved the experience. A lot of people said, we did not know that this India exists, because sitting in the West, I think it's very easy to have perceptions about India, but India is a bunch of countries put together in one, so you cannot generalize the entire India as a whole, right? So whatever unsafe incidences you hear, they might be happening in a part of India, but there are a bunch of other parts which are safe, which are comfortable. So we sort of gave people the experience in a safe environment, in a great community, and that helped us change perception about India in the first set of participants who came, and some of them kept coming back, became our friends. We are regularly in touch. Some of them actually moved to India in a way, because they spent 6 months in India now and 6 months traveling around. And so as you said, the genesis was retreats. The reason we thought of sort of discontinuing retreats part and starting a co-living space was simple. We used to run these retreats in hotels where the infrastructure was not up to the mark. There were no common areas for a community to hang out, or a lot of people come to India for yoga, wellness, mindfulness. So you need a lot of common space to host yoga sessions and all. And we had to basically, manage this organically by turning few rooms in the hotel into yoga studio, few rooms into co-working space and stuff. But that was not optimal. Plus, it was more like running a circus, because good chairs or getting good routers and setting them up for a month and moving them somewhere else was a bit of a challenge, right? So we said at some point in time we need to have our own space to sort of have it a perfect place for digital nomads, where people can hang out, people can focus on their wellness, work productively, and have a balanced life in general. But I was not very, to be honest, I was not very confident of running it myself, because I was a digital nomad until that point in time myself, right? So it was a choice between letting go of my digital nomad journey or building settling down at a place and building a co-living space. And I was sort of torn between these two. So I tried to pitch coming to India to a co-living company based in Southeast Asia that I love personally. But that did not work out. And then I worked with the government of Goa, helping them promote Goa as a digital nomad destination. I tried to pitch them that you should do this, you should invite global co-living players to set up in Goa, and that did not work out. So I did not have much option left. I said, okay, now I'll have to do it myself. And that's how we moved to Goa back in 2019, June. July, we happened to see a property. Until then, I was like, okay, it might take a year to save enough money to start a co-living space. But the next month after moving to Goa, we ended up seeing a property that we liked. It was small, but I could imagine all the elements that I envisaged about a perfect co-living space. And we signed the lease without having the money in the pocket. Then after signing the lease, I called up few friends and said, okay, I need money now. I am starting a business.
Right.
And that's how it all started. The madness started. Nomadness, rather.
Right. So it's very interesting that you say that. So just for the listeners, like I'll just kind of summarize what we spoke about, right? You said the initial when you started with the ideas of retreat, you wanted to showcase India as a place which was interesting, where this could happen, and it was not the persona that is there in people's mind, and it is something more. So you went out to Facebook groups, you went out to existing communities, you went out to the existing events in the Southeast Asian ecosystem, and you pitched retreats. You got 12 people interested, which is great, from 6 different countries and 5 continents. That's even the diversity that kind of everybody looks at. One interesting thing that you spoke about was that you wrote content to showcase or to actually showcase the way you wanted to run things, or the way things were, and what are the kind of experience that people will get, which created trust and credibility, as you said, right? So I think that's something that's for everybody of us to learn. that there's no straightforward answer to it, that how do we find the first 10 participants for our retreats. It can vary from, if I ask to 10 people, I'll get 10 different answers. But what is the basis of it is creating something which instills trust, which instills credibility, and then people will start kind of coming around. So the initial group of people will come because of you as a person, and then slowly that converts into a brand. So I think that's a very interesting way to get to experience, right? And as you said, that as part of that experience, you realize that there are so many gaps in the ecosystem, and then you went out to solve one of that gap and started NomadGao as a co-living space. I think kudos to your journey. Very, very inspiring. I think, but okay, now from here, I want to dive a little bit into, it's very hard for a lot of co-living companies to build community and culture around their space, right? It's very difficult because people either don't know how to create great communities, and even if they know, once they start scaling or once the mix of people start changing, it becomes difficult to have that same vibe in your space, right? So what are the things that you undertake as part of community building at NomadGao, and how it has evolved over the last 5 years since you started NomadGao?
Yeah, so let me first talk about the evolution of NomadGao community, right? So we opened our doors in November 2019. There was no, class of segment of Indian digital nomads back then, right? So first few months we hosted only foreigners, again through, commenting on Facebook groups and the kind of credibility and trust that I had built as a digital nomad traveling around, or moderating a Facebook community with 140,000 members back then. So that helped us get first few customers for co-living. A lot of people came to India because we opened up, which I consider as a great thing. It makes me feel good about starting this up, right? So first few months, mostly foreigners, hardly one or two Indians came to our space because Indians did not work remotely pre-COVID. And then this nice, not so nice virus hits the world, which sort of changes everything, right? There was utmost panic. For me as a co-living entrepreneur, there was a lot of panic around, we just started the business. Now what? Everything, international borders are closed. We only had foreigners until now. What if the borders don't open up and we are out of occupancy? How will we survive? And just before COVID, in January 2020, I had quit everything else I was doing to focus on this, because I felt like community building, co-living, hospitality is naturally my ikigai. I felt like this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. So during the first lockdown, so India had a lockdown between March to June, end of March to June. We still had some people stuck because they could not fly back home. And we could pay bills because of that. But I was not very sure about what will happen once the lockdown is over, but international borders still remain closed. Right. But somewhere in my heart, I felt like this is the moment where I can act more like a revolutionary and less like a businessman, less like an entrepreneur. Just sticking around, just showing up every day, trying to promote digital nomad lifestyle among Indians, and until foreigners start coming back. And that gamble sort of helped. June, the first lockdown was over, and within days we were full, because these couple of months of lockdown, I just ended up commenting on Facebook groups, reaching out to more people, talking at different, uh, conferences, creating some content around this, and that sort of helped uh, more Indians to get to know about NomadGao or digital nomad lifestyle. And I think within days of lifting of the first lockdown, we were full, and we had a waiting list for next 3 months, which was great because I was like, I did not consider myself, or rather, I considered myself more like an accidental entrepreneur. Because nobody else was ready to do this, I decided to do it myself. So suddenly there was this, adrenaline rush about, okay, doing something, and then we have 3 months of waiting list, and then people are calling us and saying, why don't you open new location if you are full? And I was like, okay, let me consider that. And you know so we have seen only foreigners transitioning the community into only Indians. And then once COVID was over, like we thought, a lot of people think Indians are going back to offices and remote work is not working in India. But we have been able to see a mix of Indians and foreigners, which is great because I think Indians who come to us are still, dipping their toes in digital nomad journey. Some of them are established ones, but those who are new, they learn from foreigners who have been doing this for years, who come to us, right?
So I have an
Yeah.
interesting question for you there, right? And we'll come back to the community side of the question again. When you say digital nomads, right? Over a period of last few years, there has been a lot of negative connotations that have been attached to the word digital nomad, right? A lot of countries have started moving away from digital nomads because either they led to they believe that countries believe that inviting people in, giving them residencies led to inflation, higher real estate prices, and so on and so forth, right? This has happened in Europe specifically. So a lot of people have started using the word remote workers and not digital nomads. So would you say the Indians who were trying to dip the toes and trying to experience this lifestyle were more of remote workers because they had their space, they had their home, they could always go back to their home, but they still wanted to do a little bit of slow traveling or work from somewhere else for a while? I think, was that the demography that was responding more to the communication that NomadGao was doing?
Yeah, so Mayank, digital nomad is a subset of remote worker universe, right? Remote workers, pre-COVID, remote workers and digital nomads were sort of overlapping because either people had flexibility to work remotely forever, or they did not have any flexibility, right? So when we started, it was pretty much the same, remote worker or digital nomad. Like remote workers who travel were essentially digital nomads.
Digital
And then
nomads.
the remote workers who work from home are people who work from home, right? What has happened after COVID is there are variety of work models that have come up, right? There is hybrid remote, where people go to offices twice a week and work from anywhere 3 days a week. Or some companies allow, working from office 1 week in a month, and remaining month people can be where they want to be. And then there are, digital nomads who do this infinitely. What has happened and the evolution that we have seen in terms of target audience is earlier we hosted digital nomads. The length of stay was almost on an average 3 to 4 weeks, which is great on one side, but then on the economic side you tend to get lower ADR because you give long stay discounts and stuff like that, right? And in a country like India where ADR is already low, uh, long stays lead to further, further decrease in ADR, because after discount the ADR comes down to like $15, $20 max. Uh, so what has happened and how we have responded to this is, a lot of Indians are working in a hybrid remote setting. So once in a couple of months, once in a quarter, they sort of combine 2-3 weeks to get 1 week, 10 days of vacation. And that class emerged massively post-COVID. During COVID, people still had the flexibility to work remotely for longer durations. But post-COVID, we have seen that the 1 week, 10 day sort of audience is increasing. And what we did to cater to this audience is we renovated our properties, made them a little more comfortable, because when people travel for a month, they want to live like home, right? They are not very fussy about little things here and there, aesthetics and this and that. But when people travel for a week, they want a perfect experience where room smells good, paint is nice, this and that. So we renovated our rooms. That helped us increase our ADR, and also helped us be more appealing to shorter term remote workers. Unlike just focusing on digital nomads, because I think if I look at myself, right, as a digital nomad, I travel for people. So my choice to be in a place would be dependent on how strong the community is. But if I'm traveling for a week, community is of course one part of it, but I think the larger part of the equation is comfort, aesthetics, infrastructure.
But I have myself stayed in NomadGao, right? And one thing that I've realized is, even people who are coming for a week, 10 days, right? They come there with their work, but they give, like every evening I would see people gathering on the terrace in the co-working space, just having a good time, just talking to each other, creating events themselves. Now, how were you able to create that sense of people taking initiatives in order to create this community side of things, right? So see, there are, like, let me put it in this way, right? See, there are hotels, there are long stays, right? In long stays, it's relatively easier to kind of create community side of things, because you have longer time with people in order to create that bond. In hotels, it's very transactional. Nobody even makes an effort to create any kind of community, right? But what you created is somewhere in between. It's not a complete long-term residential, it's not a complete hotel, like it's somewhere in between. And you have completely, at all times I see your marketing, it's all based around community. So like being in the middle of from a residential to a hotel, how you still have been able to create that sense of community? Because even if people who are coming for 7 days, 10 days, they're actively becoming part of community. They're actively trying to create good experiences for other people. So how has that happened? Like, that'll be very interesting insight for all of us.
Yeah. So I think, I think a lot in terms of psychology, right? When someone travels for 2 days, maybe they travel for a place. But if someone is traveling for a week, they are traveling for an experience. And the way people treat you, the kind of people you meet, adds a lot to that experience, right? Because when someone is traveling for a week, they might not have the entire week planned. They might have a rough idea about what they want to do, but a lot of things change when they meet people and they say, oh, let's go here for this trek, or let's go there this weekend, and stuff like that. So there is some flexibility that people want to keep in their plans, depending on the kind of people they meet. And at the end of the day, I think it's art of gathering, right? it's a business of belonging. It's a very human business. So the whole community sense starts when people book with us. One of our team members, either me or Anisa, who is leading our community, reach out to the person, get to know them better, introduce them to the WhatsApp group that we have. And in those WhatsApp groups, there are a lot of conversations happening around, you know, places to visit, or how to find the best credit card for airport lounge access and stuff like that, right? So people feel comfortable even before they check in. And I think that's the key to a great community experience. If you make people comfortable before they check in, a lot of these things are taken care of, because when they check in and they go to common areas, they meet people, and then they recall all the conversations in WhatsApp groups. It sort of creates that feeling that I know this person, I know this place.
Right.
And I think somewhere within us, we are all looking for familiarity with a sense of adventure, right? So we don't want 100% adventure or 100% familiarity. 100% familiarity is comfort zone. 100% adventure is the risk. We are all somewhere in between. So creating that feeling of somewhere in between is very important. So for example, one thing that we do is a karaoke night every week, right? Typically, a lot of people are not comfortable singing socially. We are all bathroom singers. But we have observed that during karaoke nights, because people know each other, there is this sense of being in a non-judgmental space, right? And people open up and people sing and people have a good time. So I think it's very important to create that non-judgmental environment. Let the person be from any background, any color, any caste, any sexual orientation. It doesn't matter, right? As long as you are fulfilling the innate human need of feeling the belongingness. And I think all our, the whole community sense happens because of crazy focus on belongingness. So we have given people refund because they did not feel belonged. So we are so strict about making sure that everyone feels comfortable with the community.
So what you're saying is curation becomes a very important part of curation, and onboarding becomes a very important part of setting right expectations, setting that whole persona around what to expect, and that kinds of get them to a soft landing where they already starts feeling of the feeling of belongingness already starts coming in even before they come to the space, right? And once they come to the space, it becomes more and more easier for them to talk to people because they either have interacted on a digital platform, right? So on that part, Mayur, see, when the community is small, what you are saying is possible, but there are digital nomad co-living spaces which I have spoken to, which have scaled to multiple locations. I know you guys are already at your second location, but once you start scaling beyond 3, 4, 5 locations, what role will technology play? Like, what are your thoughts on technology in co-living, and till what extent? Because that's a question that a lot of us try to answer in our own ways. Because just to give you an example, right? If I have 500, 700 units that I'm managing across different locations, the way I would want to scale my community is with the help of technology. But when we start going the technology way, we lose that sense of belongingness, or we lose that sense of human touch, which you just spoke about. So how do you think that for Selenas of the world, or outposts of the world, or outsides of the world, what is that one thing that they can do when they start scaling? What are your thoughts that with scale, how the community management changes or how technology starts playing an important role, and still then what should be like, what percentage of it should be technology and what percentage of it should still be human and centered around belongingness. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so very good question, Mike. You know, I was, in fact, yesterday only, I was pondering on this. So, simple things like the world is full of AI startups now, uh, doing everything, AI doing everything for you. We tried our hands at that, and so we had an AI chatbot uh, to help people find the answers uh, before booking, and that did not work out because a lot of people said, "Oh, you are community focused and you are using AI chatbot for answering queries." And we were like, "We are a small team. Once you book with us, that's where the community experience starts." But I think people want to see community experience right from the first interaction. Let it be a digital interaction even before booking, right? Um, Technology definitely plays a big role in scaling the community experience. But at the heart of it, I think it's a very human business. You have to take out of co-living to make it, a tech business, right? And we have seen shining examples of WeWork and We Live and all of that who tried to promote themselves as a technology company. Um, I think where technology is useful is matching people when you are at a scale. Uh, I think you have bunch of marketers, bunch of designers, uh, so sort of creating a internal LinkedIn uh, within the community to help people find relevant people. I think that's where technology is useful because you can't be just running WhatsApp groups at that scale of 500 beds, 1000 beds. Um, and another area I feel technology, I think on the infrastructure side, technology is very useful. So instead of using simple routers, we move to more advanced access points and stuff. So when I talk about technology, it's that technology that sort of helps us in scaling. But on the human side, I think it's spending more time with your team, with your community managers as you scale. Uh, Boring them, until they get bored talking about the vision, mission, uh, and not just about what did you do and making it transactional. Because when you talk about building a community centric business, I think your team should be treated as a community first, right? Your team is also a community, so treat it like a community, inspire them, spend more time with them, so one thing I love about my team is it feels like I'm building this one with my friends, right? Everyone is aligned, we have great fun building this. So I think that's the sort of you know uh, team building that you need to scale a community centric business. So
All right.
yeah,
Uh,
what are
Thanks a
your
lot
thoughts
for
on this?
right. So, interestingly, I've been on both sides. I've been an operator. I've built communities. I've been a tech provider, and I've created the technology for helping people scale technologies. Uh, what people get wrong is when they start scaling, they think that their technology will solve all their problem, right? Or if I use this app or if I implement this solution, I don't have to do anything else about the community, right? So they move away from their roots, and I think that's a problem that people are facing right now, and that's the thought process that needs to change around community building. There are systems, there are processes which can make community building more easier. It can make it more scalable, but the core element of community building, the core principles of community building still remains the same. You cannot change them. You spoke about the sense of creating that sense of belongingness, creating that, having that human touch in order to make people feel special. that cannot go anywhere. Now, that's where I see community can be tech enabled. It cannot be
Yes.
tech scalable. It is tech enabled,
Yes.
right? So that's my choice of words when I talk about uh, community building at large scale, right? So it necessarily doesn't have to mean that you have to spend more or you have to do more events. It doesn't work that way. It is very nuanced, right? Smaller things have larger impact in community building than trying to create bigger things. So,
Yes.
and I've seen that live with a lot of bigger players trying to do a lot of big events in order to say that, hey, we do community building. But then they forget about that, just making sure that the landing is smooth. When somebody comes in, there is somebody to say hi, introduce them to 2 3 people so that they start feeling comfortable. Just that initial small thing which doesn't require much of time can create so much of difference, right? And we speak about it a lot as part of our incubator program that we have at Art of Co. And I'm working on something which I'll soon share with the world. It's a resource which everybody can kind of download from our website and use. We already have a community facilitation handbook, and a lot of what we are speaking about is already part of that. So people can go and download that, and I'll link it in the description as well. But okay, we have spoken about the beginnings of NomadGao, what led you to it. We have spoken about retreats. We spoke about community, technology. Uh, Now, one thing which is the least spoken about when you are building a co-living space are operations. So I want to touch upon operations a bit. I want us to like what is a day at NomadGao looks like from an operational perspective. What goes behind the scenes into running, like what operations goes behind the scenes into running a successful digital nomad co-living brand. If you can spend some time on that and telling us about how, because you initially mentioned about lack of infrastructure which led you to starting a co-living space of your own, like how are you creating those infrastructure, how are you making sure that the internet connectivity is 24/7, the regulations around running co-living spaces, like are there any regulations in India, what kind of planning permissions or licenses that you have to take in order to run this space in India. So things around that I think will be great value addition for people who are looking to start co-living spaces.
Yeah. So first couple of years of starting NomadGao, I felt operations was the most difficult thing, right? Because when you are a community builder, I think the personality traits for a community builder are exactly opposite from a personality trait for a property manager, right? And I was both. I was both in the first couple of years. That meant I was the person who jumped into random conversations serendipitously, but I also had to take care of everyday stuff that needs to happen, the housekeeping, the making sure internet works, making sure we pay the bills on time. And that was hard. That was a lot of context switching in first couple of years. But after passing that first threshold, right, I feel operations is the easiest part in running a co-living space, because what you really need is getting hang of right vendors to get your supplies, having the right housekeeping team who is motivated to make the day brighter for the co-living guests. Then making sure who are the right internet service providers, who are all internet service providers, servicing your area. I did a lot of R&D on different routers to use to make sure internet is sort of on autopilot. And I think one bit that I just spoke about, which is a housekeeping team. I would like to elaborate a little more on that. Keeping your housekeeping team happy can actually lead to a great community experience and can actually help you run it on autopilot. So let me elaborate a little. housekeepers are generally the lowest paid, lower rung of any co-living team, right? But they are the ones who are in front of customer every single day. They are the ones cleaning the room. They are the ones cleaning the common areas. They are the ones who can make or break things for you, right? Um, so how to ensure that they do their best job and they are motivated to show up every day. They smile at your guests, at your community members. Um, I think giving them the right motivation, right? So, for example, uh, in our place in Goa, there is this couple who does the housekeeping for the entire property. They have two kids, and they want to make sure their kids uh, get good education and move up. So, helping them, give better education to their kids, or just creating an atmosphere where they feel respected, uh, because respect is something which a lot of these people don't get at typical hotels and stuff. But at a co-living, because you are building a community and not just a hotel, if you treat these people well, um, they will go ahead to customers. They'll feel proud about what they do. They will do their best job. They'll smile at their guests. So keeping housekeepers happy is very, very important. Keeping ground level staff is very important to sort of take your co-living space to autopilot. Um, and I'll just share, Mayank. So after like first 3 years of 3.5 years of uh, learning operations, last year we decided to handle everything remotely. We were in Vietnam for 8-9 months, and everything ran smoothly, right? Because the team is motivated and they take care of everything. Because with operations, it's a simple formula. I don't think a lot of things can go wrong if you do it right. If you keep rooms clean, if you make sure your internet infrastructure is proper, if you make sure to service your ACs in time, service your appliances in time, if you make sure to put the mattresses out in the sun once in a while, that's it. That's all operations is all about, right? On the
But do you use some
Yeah.
kind of technology to manage your operations, or right now you are not the scale is manageable that you can do it on an Excel or using people?
So we use a property management system to help us know who's going in which room is dirty, which room needs cleaning. Uh, so that throws alerts about, okay, it's time to clean this room, it's time to
Right.
clean that room, and all that. But again, Mayank, this is something which is easy to set up, easy to manage, right? But the human, again, operations also has a human part. It's not just process,
Right.
but there is people component to it, which sort of drives everything. Um, because especially in India, working conditions for housekeeping staff can be very bad, right? Uh, at some of the hotels, because they don't get respect, they don't get food on time. They are forever grumpy, unhappy in their jobs, but they still have to show up every day to feed their families. What if all these people take little more efforts in keeping their team happy, healthy, just the way they take efforts to make their guests happy, right?
So it's about humanizing operations, similar to the way we spoke about building community. It's about humanizing operations, make them more human centric, so that it becomes real. And when it becomes more human centric, because people interacting with the residents they interact a lot more with residents, it can again further your cause of building a great community, because people feel connected, people feel at home, and that can create a lot of difference, right? So, and all of this, right, if you have a great community, great operations brings in operational excellence, your cost of operation goes down. But if you're building great community, your cost of customer acquisition goes down because you have a lot more referrals. I still remember, and I think we've spoken about it earlier, that because of like 30, 35, 40% of the bookings still come from customer referrals. So that's a great testament of the community that you have created. Kudos to you for that. Right. So moving on to the last part of this conversation, I want to talk about profitability a bit, right? Because in the co-living ecosystem, because since what happened with Common, what happened with Selena, Quarters, and We Live, a lot of people struggle around profitability, or they have doubts that whether co-living companies are profitable or not. If you can share some numbers, whatever you can, and if you can talk a bit about numbers of how things have changed for NomadGao, how the growth has happened. Are you guys profitable? I'm asking you in open. Would love to know a little bit of those numbers, because I think that will give a lot of context to people. And what are the KPIs that you guys measure on a daily basis to run the business? So if you can shed some light on those couple of things, that'll be great.
Yeah. So I'll talk about this, but after this, I also want to, if we could extend this, I also want to talk about building co-living business in emerging market like India, right?
Sure.
Because
Yeah,
the fundamentals
definitely
are very different from other markets. So yeah, coming to profitability, I think, when we started, we started as a side hustle, and then it became a business, right? And during COVID, we sort of treated it like a startup, and I think, in that environment it was easy to be mistaken that startups are basically someone who burn money for building something big in the future, right? Because every day I could hear news about this startup raised this much even when they did not have revenues, this startup raised this much when they were losing money and all that. So I've been through that journey where I felt like, okay, now we need to raise money to grow quickly, to make sure that, because the market is huge and all of that. But quickly I realized that this is a people business, and people businesses take time to scale, right? So we did a lot of changes in the way we operated from that startup zone where we overhired and nobody knew what they were supposed to do, to having a small team, everyone knows what they are supposed to do. That has helped us cut down a lot of costs over time. We were burning money till a couple of years ago, but last year we became profitable because of all of these changes. Profitable even at such a small scale, because we operate very lean. We having been a finance guy and having been a risk manager, I think there is this natural tendency to be prudent. That was sort of dormant for a year or two. That came up, and we have taken measures to be profitable. So at the space
so if
level,
you can, if you're comfortable sharing, what is the range of net revenues that you have been able to generate on an overall basis, right? If you can just give a range, like is it like 15 to 25%? Is the range in which you kind of work with, or like does it change seasonally? Like how does that affect overall business?
Yeah. So as a destination co-living business, right, there is seasonality is a part of the game, right?
Right.
Because unlike urban co-living spaces which don't really have seasonality, we have a space in the Himalayas, Dharamkot, where the season is summers, but the place in Goa, the peak season is winters. So that kind of takes care of each other, right? because when there is off season in Goa, there is season in the mountains and vice versa. We, on an average across the year, last year we did about 25 odd percent of ops profitability, ops level profitability, 25-30%, which I think, without spending on marketing and just relying on referrals, repeats, I think there is a lot more value that we can unlock over this, and we are now focusing on unlocking more value this year. This year we have already seen our occupancy levels increasing, because every year we have seen this trend that even if we don't do anything, just because of the referrals and repeats, our occupancy levels keep going up. Of course,
what's the highest occupancy level that you have seen in a period of a quarter?
So in the mountains during summers we are 90+% occupied, 90-95%. In Goa, again it's 80-90% of occupancy across the quarter, but again depends on season.
Very, very interesting, because the way the occupancies are seen in different markets, when you see for Western countries in Europe, right, the occupancies are seen in a very different way, because they largely look at mid to long term stays, so the occupancies are much higher. Doesn't necessarily mean the revenues are much higher, right? So I think that there is the people fail to understand that higher occupancy doesn't necessarily means a co-living space generating higher revenues. You kind of have to balance it out,
Yes.
and that's why we see a lot of people moving towards flex living or hybrid living. Even the urban co-living spaces or the rural co-living spaces or destination co-living spaces, whatever we call them, all of us are moving towards more of hybrid living, trying to optimize the top line revenue, and trying to maximize it, right? Cool. Thanks a lot for sharing those numbers very, very candidly. I think people will benefit a lot from just understanding where they are with respect to how the market is evolving. So the last part of this conversation, Mayur, what are your tips for people looking to start co-living businesses in emerging market? Like if you can list down, let's say, 3 to 5 pointers that every co-living founder should understand or look at when they are looking for starting a co-living business in an emerging market. Would love to know your thoughts.
So I think, let me talk a little more about building in India first,
Sure.
for the first couple of minutes. So to build a co-living, digital nomad focused co-living business in India, I think there are a lot of headwinds, right? Because for a co-living, digital nomad focused co-living business in emerging market to thrive, you need some impetus from government. The government needs to promote the place as a digital nomad destination, and then the infrastructure has to come in place. I think what has worked for us is creating spaces with global standards in mind, right? It's easy to sort of just do mediocre space in India, because the price difference, people have not learned to pay premium for a community yet, especially the locals. But if you create a space that is of global standard, you attract the small number of global digital nomads coming to your country. I think the domestic remote workers, digital nomads, find your place lot more valuable than what their original thought was, which is going to some hotel or a hostel for that matter, right? Because very few Indians know the term digital nomad co-living. So their default choice of search is either hostel if they want social atmosphere, or a hotel if they want comfort. So merging these two creating a social atmosphere which is also comfortable is what we do as a co-living, digital nomad co-living operator, right? So I think if you are building in any emerging market, put a focus on making a social yet comfortable place, which also gives people privacy. Uh, I think you need to do a lot of lobbying with the government. Uh, for for example, if you are building in India, you can't just build in isolation. You need to get like-minded people in your country together to lobby to government about launching, let's say, digital nomad visa or promoting the place as a digital nomad destination, and or something of that sort. So in our case, um, even after being such a huge country, I think we are the only ones knocking the government's doors all the time to you know to promote digital nomadism in India, right? So I've been talking to government of Goa, and now there is some action happening around that. They're launching co-working spaces by the beach. At least it's starting somewhere. Then I am also talking to central government, because that's where the authority is to launch visas and all. Uh, so, you know, you can either build something very generic and not have to worry about knocking all these doors, or you build a mission, be a revolutionary, and go all in and sort of try to do whatever is possible. So I've chosen the second path. And I think if you are building in emerging markets with passion, that's the way to go. Put yourself in. There are no easy
I think
answers.
that's the line for the day, right? If you're building in emerging markets, you have to build it with passion, because you have to be a revolutionary in order to make people believe that this can work and this is the future. Perfect. Thanks a lot, Mayur. Thanks a lot for taking out time and talking to us today. I think there are a lot of golden nuggets in this whole conversation. We've spoken for about more than an hour, and I think it'll be really, really helpful for people to understand different perspectives, right from community to operations to the difference between remote workers and digital nomadism, and how the environment has changed since 2019. I think it's really, really important for all of us to understand the nitty-gritties to start building a co-living space for remote workers or digital nomads. Thanks a lot for sharing those insights. We'll definitely get back to you if there are any questions and set up a follow-up episode. But thanks a lot for today, and all the best for taking NomadGao to places. Guys, I'll connect the socials of NomadGao in the description if you guys are interested in learning more about them. I'll also set up coordinates of Mayur in the description. So if you want to talk to Mayur, you can always reach out to him on his email. And that's it from our side at Coliving Innovators. This is a new series that we have started at Art of Co to try and bring out these journeys of co-living founders from around the world, because we think that there is a lack of an ecosystem right now, and these stories do not come out as often as they should, and there's a lot to learn from these stories. So I'll be back with another episode very soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayank.